The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Whoa. Elias Pettersson had 89 points last season. That was the 16th highest mark in Canucks history. And we're talking about how he could bounce back. Kyle, you wouldn't even have 2 goals if you played 200 NHL games. Come on, man.
Dude, your standards are low, buddy. Pick it up.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to the home of low standards, Locked On Canucks, baby. I'm Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into this Friday episode here on Locked On Canucks, we got to thank you for tuning in. You know why? Because it is your Canucks right here every damn day. Part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world and for our show. If you haven't done so already, what the are you waiting for, man? Make sure you go subscribe, like, follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And you know what? We ain't here without the sponsors, so we got to shout them out to start the show. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Go download that Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, they do apply. Elias Pettersson, man, a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde season for the franchise pillar here of your Vancouver Canucks up front. The guy who had 10 goals in his first 10 NHL games. He definitely didn't have 10 goals over the past couple months of the season there. But again, an interesting season for Elias Pettersson. But more importantly, if this Canucks team is going to win a Stanley Cup, they need Elias Pettersson to bounce back in a big way. How can they achieve that? We're going to dive into that on today's episode. We'll also talk about some other playoff stars and how they handled their first couple of forays into the NHL postseason. Because, hey, maybe Pettersson isn't the only one to struggle when he first gets into the dance, okay? Maybe we'll touch on some other Canuck breakout candidates as well. Lots to get into, even though it's July 19th, 2024. Let me introduce my co-host, my fellow 31-year-old, Kyle Bhawan. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm 31 and a half years old. Hey, speaking of which, I got to set the record straight off the jump. Beggsy knows the deal. A lot of people know the deal. I built a studio out in Burnaby years and years ago. And now I'm banned from playing PlayStation 2 from that studio. Why? Because I dominated with Mike Bibby. Okay? A little bit of a Vancouver reference there. All in all, remove the ban 5, God, and play the damn game. Speaking of playing the damn game, Elias Pettersson, okay? He needs to forget about everything that happened in the second half of last season. He needs to forget about it, not talk about it, not even give any of the questions the warmth, because it's going to come, you know? It's going to come, you know? September's going to come, and these reporters like Trevor Beggs, they're going to go after Pettersson's neck. And it would be wise for the reporters and for him to nip it in the butt. Is that the quote? Nip it in the butt. Cut it off and get over it, because it's time to move on. For real. There's so many ways Pettersson can bounce back. I'll go through 2 or 3, but a lot of it does have to do with Pettersson's relations with the media. It really does. Because I don't want to say the pressure is going to continue to get to him, but man, oh man, it got to him last year.
It did, and it's funny when you look at his performance after the All-Star break. It was very hit and miss, right? I mean, this guy went a long stretch without scoring a goal there.
It
really
sucked. His performance after the All-Star break was not hit or miss. It was miss. It was miss. It was so bad, bro. He was so bad. We were just waiting. We were being nice. We dropped like 15 episodes like, yo, don't worry. He's coming back. He's doing his thing. Bro, he never came back.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm looking at his game log right now from the second half of the season, and for the most part, the games he performed best in were against non-playoff teams, if you think about it, right? We had a couple of games against Detroit there in February. He had a goal and 2 assists on February 10th. He had a 3-assist game on February 15th. Again, that's a bad Detroit team. His goals in the second half came against, the Minnesota Mild. And, he had a big game against the Sabres as well. Another big game against the Flames. But this guy, for the most part, wasn't really scoring and producing against playoff caliber teams. And maybe that was a sign of things to come in the postseason, right? Because he certainly didn't bring his A game in the postseason. And, I lean towards giving Pettersson the benefit of the doubt, which I don't think anyone in this market wants to do. Everyone, like Farhan Lalji, is ripping into this guy. Most people in our chat are ripping into Pettersson. He is the new whipping boy in Vancouver, unfortunately. But look, I'm just telling people to lay off a little bit, okay? I know the guy's making a lot of money. Back in the day, I remind you, we had no idea how much the NHL players made, right? Now you can just go online and search it up. It's an odd world. But with Elias Pettersson, again, we've had 6 seasons now in Vancouver. And, for the most part, he's been one of the best players in the NHL ever since he stepped foot onto NHL ice. Even last season, before his slide, he was the best player in the month of January, or one of the best players in the month of January. What was it? 13 goals in 14 games, something crazy like that. So, this is a guy who's, has Selke potential, has 100-point potential, who has hit 100 points before. And Kyle, I'm kind of curious that, he's got skill for days. What do you think played a bigger factor down the stretch for Pettersson last year? And this might help answer the question about how he can bounce back. Was it his health or was it his mental makeup? What do you think was the bigger issue for Elias Pettersson down the stretch?
Okay, so the real 31.5-year-old answer is his health, right? Because he came out and said that the tendonitis got to him, right? Even though the rest of the team didn't disclose injuries, even though the rest of the team and the organization, like the leaders, like the old guys in the building didn't have his back, right? For real. They don't want to let him have that as an excuse. Now, I must add this too, even though it really is irrelevant. I was with a kinesiologist last week. I did the Coquitlam Crunch, and my body was ailing. It was in pain, but during that stroll to the top of the cliff, we were talking a lot about hockey, and this guy who moved back from the States and Australia finally got back into hockey, and he was confused. He was confused on why everyone was raving about Elias Pettersson, okay, going into his hockey viewing experience, because he saw a guy in the playoffs who was absolutely invisible, absolutely just bored out there. He used the word bored. And he also said this is off again. I'm not saying this. This is what a kinesiologist from Douglas College is saying. He's saying that Pettersson's making excuses and that tendonitis is not something you complain about in the NHL playoffs. And not only is this kinesiologist saying this, I feel as if the organization was saying that as well, right? And they forced him to play games because they're trying to man this guy up. All that being said, that's something that Pettersson had to go through before he understood it, right? Like the mental makeup, and now we're talking about the mentality of the game. You have to be able to play through it. And he let the injury, I know it's tendonitis, and tendonitis is tough, okay? For real. It is super tough, super tough. I've had it before, long ball hockey career. But to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have to do your best to ignore injuries that don't require surgery or concussions. You know what I'm saying? Like there has to be that ability to do so you can tap into your instincts. And Pettersson's ability to let his injury start ailing his ability to be himself was on full display. Now, if you want to talk more about the mental side, it's the things that like Farhan was kind of touching on. And I don't know if it was a piece for the Hockey News or some quotes from a recent interview that the Hockey News reported on, but he talked about how Pettersson lets the pressure get to him. He lets the noise get to him. You talk about the contract stuff. You talk about the underperforming. You talk about both his interviews with Elliot Friedman, all the feedback, all the jazz. It just gets to him. Speaking of which, I know Beggsy and I have made this joke several times, and maybe a lot of people just take it as a joke. And sometimes we do too, but man, oh man, next year, Pettersson, do not do one interview, not one interview with Elliot Friedman. I love Elliot Friedman, but we don't need that one-on-one Elias Pettersson interview where we need to hear him talk more, because either this guy needs some PR training or he needs to walk the walk after he talks the talk. You get what I'm saying? Because I feel as if he puts himself in a situation where the media starts talking and then it gets to him where it's like, dude, if you're going to talk the talk again, just walk the walk. Just ignore it. You're Elias Pettersson. You're the alien. Look at Trevor and I. You're going to let Trevor and I get to you? Look at us. So, yeah, man, just do less. Stay close with Rick Tocchet. Don't take it personal. That's another thing, too. Don't take this whole organizational philosophy on injury and relations and all that jazz personal. Just move forward. Let go of last year and don't talk to Elliot Friedman.
Yeah, maybe that's the key to Elias Pettersson bouncing back. Just to ignore Elliot Friedman's calls and texts at all costs. Here's the thing that kind of bugs me. Maybe we'll talk about it a bit, and we'll kind of dovetail into the other side as we continue to talk about how Pettersson can bounce back, and just comparing him to other NHL stars, how they performed in the playoffs. Farhan Lalji again, kind of stirred up some stuff yesterday with what he said about Elias Pettersson. Now, this was an interview with Jay Onrait on SportsCenter. It's been picked up by other publications, but he said that there is, quote, absolutely an immense amount of pressure on Elias Pettersson, and I'm not sure he's up for it. And that's not a criticism of him as a player, but he is a player that lets the outside noise in, and it does affect him. Now, here's the catch-22 with that. This is a guy, a prominent media member, a guy who definitely asks the tough, sometimes awkward questions in scrums. And, he's a guy that's, putting pressure on Pettersson himself, right? He's saying, oh, there's an immense amount of pressure in this market. Farhan Lalji is the guy saying that, right? I mean, he's doing his job. He's trying to, get the clicks there. But sometimes I wonder if the media could do a better job of just, maybe phrasing it a little bit differently. I don't know, Kyle. Am I being a little bit sensitive on that, or do you think?
No,
right?
No, you're not. You're not. Bro, Trevor, I talked about this in September. When Pettersson asked that he didn't want to talk about his contract. Remember he said that?
Yeah.
And I went on here, and I also went on to my network as well all week with Kyle Bhawan, and I said, yo. Now I'm going to get a little personal here and just think about us, okay? Think about the people on this side, the fans, and all that jazz, right? If we want to make it further in the playoffs, if we want to continue to, just cheer for a really good hockey team, it's easier to do so when Elias Pettersson is efficient, right? He's doing his thing. And if the noise gets to him, then maybe we need to take our foot off the pedal a little and make less noise. You get what I'm saying? It's best for business. Now, that's patting him on the back and giving him the best pillow to sleep on. I get it. And it's not really, for some reason, how this relationship works between fans and media and all that jazz. But at the same time, bro, it's what's the phrase? A catch-22? I don't even know what that means. At the end of the day, Pettersson can do himself favors too if he's more personable or not ignoring the media. You get what I'm saying? Like, he kind of has this ability to piss off those people too. It's like something happened. This guy stopped rocking Balenciaga. Like some hockey folk wanted him to stop. Remember, hockey folk did not want this guy spending $180 on t-shirts. And look what happened. Less swag to the media.
Yeah.
Dude, it's a lot, man. Sorry to cut you off there. It's just there's a lot of things here, but he are we saying that he needs to grow up? Do we need to grow up? Is that fair for us to say, look at us right now, 31 and a half years old, both of us? Look at us. No,
I think Elias Pettersson should not grow up. Look, this guy, when he was an 18-year-old kid in Sweden, won the MVP for his SHL team, the Vajo Lakers, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, I mean, look, this guy, when he was just a young kid playing with like less pressure on him, look how good he was, right? Look how good he was in the bubble playoffs, and there's no fans around. I think Elias Pettersson needs to, maybe be a little bit less mature and just kind of play like a kid out there, not worry about the outside pressure. Fair. Don't worry about Farhan Lalji talking about this mountain of pressure. Just go play your goddamn game, man. On the other side, let's touch a bit more on Pettersson.
I'm going to touch on that right now, though. There's going to be a mountain of pressure because he signed a really big deal. And now long term, he did take a discount. I'm not going to ignore that. He did. I know he did. He stayed for 8 years too. But the way these things work, and based on what he did last year in the playoffs and what he did in the second half of the season, and just his energy, man, his body language, it's just, you know what I'm saying? It seemed like it was not fun to be around that guy. And again, he was the only guy that disclosed the injury compared to the rest of his teammates. It's just like, why wasn't everyone on the same page? You get what I'm saying? Like, something was off there. And we have to take into account that, again, he got paid this fat contract that he did take a discount on. But again, people are going to ignore that. And then you look at a lot of the players that did stick around. They took discounts, quote unquote. And look at Danton Heinen, took a discount. People are not going to look at Pettersson as one that did. And dude, the pressure is going to be absolutely intense, okay? For real. Absolutely intense. And I'm curious, man, to see how he's going to handle it.
There you go, Kyle Bhawan. He's on Team Farhan Alology. On the other side, let's
Whoa!
get to Pettersson, how he compares to other NHL stars, and a bit more specifics on what he did well last season and what he can improve on. That's coming up next here on Locked On Canucks after we shouted our friends over at eBay Motors. You know the deal. Whether you're driving a cardboard box on wheels like me or a souped-out Honda Civic like Kyle, you got to give your car some love, and that's why you got to go use eBay Motors. They know that passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, in-seat bidets, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, baby. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Oh, yeah, baby. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions by eBay Guarantee Fit. Only available to U.S. customers.
Well, bam. People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bhawan. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Please, well, I guess if you want, hit the like button. It does really help us out a lot. And subscribe to the channel. And man, oh man, dude, you just called me the next Farhan Lalji, man. What's that about, bro? You're saying that in 2024? Okay, bro, can I just say something? I'm Team Pettersson, man. I'm Team Pettersson. Before the chance we're going down on Pettersson at Game 5, right? Game 5 against Edmonton. This guy didn't do anything in the playoffs. And what did the Canucks fans do? Let's go, Petey. Let's go, Petey. It was soccer chant-like. It was beautiful. It was totally opposite of what people paint the Vancouver fan base to be. It was a beautiful moment. Before that even happened, I'm the dude dropping episodes on this network saying, yo, gotta leave this guy alone. It's all good. He's going to bounce back. I believe in this guy more than ever. That being said, I think the pressure is fair because he signed a huge deal. He signed a huge deal on a team that has a 31-year-old, a 32-year-old JT Miller, on a team that has Quinn Hughes for a couple years making nothing. Thatcher Nemco's making minimum wage. Dude, the pressure's going to be on. The pressure's going to be on. And I think based on, when I say he's got to grow up, I'm saying, dude, you got to be accountable. You asked for this, bro. You talked to Elliot Friedman, talked about this whole contract thing, right? Like, oh, I'm going to wait, blah, blah, blah. Then he talked to Elliot Friedman again, talking about paraphrasing, but he's like giving off that energy that it was important for him to make more money than William Nylander. You get what I'm saying? And you're doing this on the West Coast, the best coast of Canada, a team that has no Stanley Cup. Like, bro, you know what I'm saying? It's on him to just man up, ignore the noise, figure out how to do that and move forward. And I think a way he can do that, and this is like some reverse psychology, is ironically being more transparent with the media in a more, I don't want to say like a PR friendly way, but just in a more friendly way.
Yeah, I find that unlikely. And look, it's not like every NHL star around the league is great with the media. Look, Connor McDavid gives a ton of just boring vanilla answers. Look at Nikita Kucherov is very standoffish to the media, and that guy's won a couple Stanley Cups. So it's not the be all or end all, but like certainly in a pressure cooker market like Vancouver, it would help if he was more like that. But look, Pettersson's an intense guy. You see it in his media interviews. That's why, he doesn't like answering questions about losses. Like, I think he's intense. I think he's incredibly hard on himself, right?
Okay.
So I don't know if he's necessarily going to be more warm and bubbly and friendly with the media. What I think he needs to do a good job of, like you said, is tuning out the noise. And I've given my anecdote before, like, you hear about this guy being on his phone a lot. His teammates kind of, in one of those videos on Canucks.com, talked about him being the guy on his phone or social media the most. Like, I've seen it around the ring, right? So, I mean, yeah, I just hope he's just kind of, maybe staying off the technology, tune out that outside noise, because there's a lot of it out there right now. especially, if he, gets on YouTube and sees how Elias Pettersson can bounce back. He's going like, what? I had 89 points last season. What are you talking about?
Dude, but 89 points is not like, dude, it's good. Don't get me wrong.
It's the
but
60th highest mark in Canucks history.
Bro,
That
his
was
second
54
second
years.
half of the season was so bad, bro. It was so bad. It was horrible, man. Like, there was even a stretch of like 20, 30 games where this guy probably had like 20 shots. Like, he was just so invisible, man. So invisible. Bro, something was going on. Something was going on. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Something was going on. A little bit of just the body language, just the energy was not right. Something was going on, and they gotta just move forward, man. Quinn Hughes, man, you and him need to just go to Thailand together, man, and then go to India and eat some street food from India, and just toughen up. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. I like that.
Yep.
I like that, man. Yeah, it was again not very Pettersson like end of the season. After the All-Star break, he had 7 goals, 25 points in 33 games.
And count the playoffs. Count the playoff stats too. Don't just ignore that. Come on, Trevor. Don't just ignore that, man.
Well, if we put in the playoff stats, then it's he had what? Got to do the math here. He had 31 points and 8 goals in 44 games.
No,
47 games. Yeah, 8 goals in 47 games. Yeah, that's very, very.
What was his playoff stats again? Just to remind us, was it like 1 goal, 4 assists, or something like that?
1 goal and 5 assists, 6 points in 13 games.
Bro, if Pettersson woke up, we would have beaten the Oilers.
Yeah,
it's all good though. You gotta learn, man. You gotta learn.
It's I tend to think it's more between the ears of Pettersson, like you said. It's tuning. It's how he can learn to tune the outside noise, and we talked about it. Okay, we talked about it on an episode last week. Okay, the Sedins. Let the Sedins, take Pettersson under their wing, show him the ways. Okay, if you missed that episode from last week, make sure you go check it out. Locked On Canucks, wherever you listen to podcasts. I do want to talk about a couple other NHLers and how they performed in their first couple forays in the postseason, because Pettersson isn't the only guy that has struggled early on. Now, I've looked at guys like, Nathan McKinnon had his struggles with the NHL, but he's basically just been a playoff performer whenever he's been in the postseason. I looked at Nikita Kucherov. He's another guy who, as a 21-year-old was nearly helped that Lightning team win a Stanley Cup. But there's guys too who have kind of struggled early on in their postseason careers. And, the 3 guys I want to bring up are first and foremost Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk struggled during his first couple runs in the postseason with the Calgary Flames. Wasn't the player he is now, where he's just an absolute tank, an absolute beast in the postseason. Another guy to bring up is, you could basically call it anyone on the Leafs, but I'll bring up Austin Matthews. Now, he's a bit of an interesting case because Matthews has had good and bad postseason. He almost yo-yos between good and bad, right? But he's had some postseasons where this guy, again, will score 60 goals in the regular season and then have a postseason like this year, where I know he dealt with injury, but he had 1 goal in 5 games. In the 2020-21 season, he had 1 goal in 7 games when they lost to Montreal, and a Montreal team who they should have easily beat, right? So Austin Matthews has just had a couple postseasons now where he's really struggled despite being the highest paid player in the NHL. And the third guy I want to bring up is the guy that just won the Cup, Alexander Barkov, okay? And Alexander Barkov's first 3 runs in the postseason, the guy had 4 goals across 3 different playoff runs. Okay. Wasn't really the guy who was driving the bus, and because of that, the Florida Panthers got bounced early on in all 3 of those playoff series. But where is Barkov now? He's a freaking Stanley Cup champion. There's probably a good chance, or a good argument, that maybe he should have won the Selke this season. I know Connor McDavid had the gaudy point totals, but Barkov just an all-around beast. But it took him some time, right? I mean, he got his first taste of playoff hockey against the Islanders there at 20 years old. And then they made it to the play-in series in 2020, and then 2020, 2021 made it back to the postseason, where Barkov had 1 goal, 7 points in 6 games, was a -8. Not the same defensive beast that he was now. So sometimes it does just take these guys time. And Barkov was at age 25 season during that 2020, 2021 postseason run. Pettersson age 25 right now. So look, I believe in Pettersson to turn this around. Turn to the outside noise. He's just too damn good. He's too damn good of a hockey player. And
he will. Okay, Trevor, you know how I said earlier, like, he needs to grow up? Like, okay, that came from an insecure place, but ironically, there's a lot of truth to that, right? Like, Father Time is always the one who wins. Experience leads to, performance. You get what I'm saying? So it goes back to this being a learning experience. Rick Tockett's favorite word. Ironically, I just brought up Rick Tocchet, and it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, he needs to, and this is really important. Like, he can't take what happened in the past and be so personal with it, right? Because he's the young one here. Yeah, he's the super talented guy, but he's a young one here, and he's around champions. It's not like Rick Tocchet, Adam Foote, Patrick Alvin, Jim Rutherford. It's not like they're taking it personal with him. They're looking out for him more than anyone. They gave this guy $11.6 million. You know what I'm saying? So he cannot take it personal. Okay? He can't take it personal with the media because he allows the noise to get to him. You're causing up a stir. You got to be the bigger person. And in this case, too, he's got to be the bigger person. Yeah, Tocchet didn't have his back during the press conference at the end of the season. Didn't really give a beep if he had tendinitis. Don't take it personal, though, because he's trying to teach you a lesson. The guy's played with Mario Lemieux. So, yeah, it's a lot of things. And I think for Pettersson to ultimately be able to bounce back, it just goes back to divine timing and destiny. And whatever happened last season, especially in the second half of the playoffs, and having 5 points in 13 playoff games, or 6 points, I'm sorry. It's like, that's embarrassing. Like, all that stuff that did happen, it's just part of the story. Because look at Kachuk, look at Barkov. I'm not going to bring up Matthews' name, but look at McKinnon. Early on in his regular season, like early on in his career, just different. Just got to move on, and don't hold a grudge with the members of your team who are literally trying to just make you into a better player, aka a champion.
Yeah, like I said, it was a learning experience this year for Pettersson and the Canucks. He's coming back, baby, and we're coming back here on the other side on Locked On Canucks. Maybe I'll get to a couple comments or shout out maybe a couple breakout candidates for next year on the other side. We'll see what happens when we come back after we shout out our friends over at Game Time. All right, Game Time's got a lot, okay? Whether you want to see some MLB here in the summertime, or if you're not into that, go check out some concerts, comedy, theater, or whatever you're into. Hey, maybe you can even find tickets to Kyle DJing tonight in Van City. I'm not sure if you can find that on Game Time, but hey, I'm going to try to find you, buddy. I'm going to find you tonight. What's the tune? Can you tease one tune that you're going to spin tonight?
Damn, I'm just like some groovy jazz music with some Don Toliver. Do the kids know who Don Toliver is? I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. I still got to build this 15-minute set.
Can't wait, buddy. Don Toliver. Hey, man, if you maybe can find some Don Toliver tickets on Game Time as well, they got it all. And you know why I love Game Time? They got the last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They got flash deals. They got zone deals. They got all in pricing, and they got views from the seat on the app. What? And they also, my favorite part, they got the lowest price guarantee. That's right. There is no place you should be buying tickets other than Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download that Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Press it. The button's going to work eventually, man. People, we are back doing this, giving you Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bhawan. That right there is my homie, 31-and-a-half-year-old Trevor Beggs. And man, oh man, we're doing this. We're having an emotional conversation about Elias Pettersson. And I feel as if I had a breakthrough with myself, man. Don't take things personal. Don't do it. You the alien, right? I'm the alien. Don't take it personal. Don't get bitter. Get better. Wise words from Uncle Ricky 3000. Shout out to Don't Those. Trevor, man, other Canuck breakouts, you really want to do this right now? I'm just fueled up. I'm emotional right now. There's a comment from SK93 talking about how the Oilers fans think they're better than us, even though we didn't have Demko or Pettersson in our series. Crazy, man. No,
and Phil Pronik, as you mentioned before too, right? Phil Pronik was a bit of a shell of himself. Look, it was a learning experience for the Canucks in these playoffs, and
Canucks are stacked, man.
I truly believe in this core. I haven't been this excited about a Canucks team since 2011, 2012. So it's been a long time, man. We were young men with less hair on our bodies, more hair on our heads back in those days. But yeah, I'm so excited about this Canucks team. And, obviously there's ways they can get better. Like, what are the Edmonton Oilers talking about right now? How that team can improve going into next season. But, it's hard not to love what the Canucks have in terms of the forward depth right now, their goaltending tandem, which might be one of the best in the league. We should be touching on that at some point here this summer, maybe where it ranks among goaltending duos in the NHL. I think the defense is the one big question mark with this team right now. And Elias Pettersson, I guess, is a question mark for some people, and deservedly so until he figures it out. But again, this is a guy who, did post a lot of points last season, has a great skill set. I believe he's going to figure it out. Oh, yeah.
He's one of the best players in hockey when he's on. And but again, I understand some of the, I would say the pessimism, because people are just curious. Like, the pressure is never going to be off. You know what I'm saying? The pressure is never going to be off. It's only going to get greater, especially when the expectations get larger. And his ability to just stay even keel is so important. And again, maybe it does tap into like just him not. He should probably get like a Motorola Razr from like 2002 that doesn't have access to all these smartphone apps. You know what I'm saying? Again, Pettersson, if you don't like the noise, don't make the noise. With Elliot Friedman, I feel like Elliot Friedman is gonna like want to hurt me because I keep putting it out there that Pettersson, our best player, or one of them, should stop talking to him, and that's like his job to do so. But man, oh man, some dangerous stuff, man. Some dangerous stuff, dude. One-on-one interviews with Elliot Friedman, that's like, bro, that's nuts, man. That's like. Yeah, I know, man. Anyways,
dangerous times. And hey, I got a theory. If Pettersson moves to the Motorola Razr, maybe it can work out just like a SK93 here. Petey and DeBrusque will be the new McDavid and Hyman. Both are going to take off this season now. McDavid and Hyman, that's a pretty high bar to live up to. But what did we talk about last season? And I think Kyle's laptop died on me, so I'm going to wrap up the show solo. But what did we talk about last offseason, okay? We talked about Elias Pettersson. Does he have, 115 point potential? That's the kind of numbers we were talking about, right? So, if he can tune out the distractions, like this guy has a potential. Like if Jonathan Huberdeau can do it, Elias Pettersson can do it, especially if he's playing with different line mates. And, we're going to get into this next week where we do our roster projections. What do we want the lines to look like? I mean, it's worth remembering too, Pettersson didn't have great line mates at all last season. And I think he could have maybe not just one, but two legitimate top six wingers on his line this season. And that's maybe just the tonic the Canucks need if they're going to go far in the playoffs and if they're finally going to bring that sweet, sweet Stanley Cup to Vancouver. But for now, let's get out of here. We'll touch on breakout candidates next week, okay? Because it's a long summer, baby. We got lots to talk about, but actually I have two breakout candidates that I want to mention next week here on Locked On Canucks. But for now, shout out to the everydayers, the occasion listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you, your families, and your dogs too. Enjoy the summer. Enjoy that sack scratching weather out there in your Speedo, in your bikinis, or whatever you like to do. For now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That was Kyle Bhawan. He gone, and now I'm going to be gone too. You've been listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.